Welcome back sa akin channel. Narito naman tayo para sa pinakabagong balita mula sa mundo ng politika. Nagulantang ang buong palasyo ng silangan kahapon ng bigla umanong umulingongo pag-aaway na Vice Presidente BBM at Liza Marcos sa loob mismo ng kanilang hall. Ayon sa mga aid, nagsimula lamang usapan simpleng pag-review ng mga dokumento ngunit mabilis itong nauwi sa isang matinding argumento. Ilang minuto pa lang lumipas ay narinig na malakas na sigawan, kasunod ng tila pagkabulabog ng mga tauhan ng seguridad na hindi malaman kung papasok ba sa manatili na lang nakabantay sa labas. Sa paglala ng pagtatalo, naglabas umano ng matagal ng kinikimkim ng sama ng loob ang bawat isa. Si Liza, ayon sa isang opisyal na hindi napabanggit na pangalan, ay nagbitaw ng mga obligasyon tungkol sa umulay mga disyong hindi sang-ayon sa loob ng pamahalaan. Si Presidente BBM naman ay agad na sumagot ng mga matapang na pananalita dahilan para lalo pang uminit ang tensyon. Ang ilang staff ay napaulat na payuko at napasaran na lamang ng pito matapos umunoy sa bayang pagsampal at pagbuhatan ng mga masakit na salita. Habang mas tumatagal, mas dumarami ang empleyadong nakakarinig ng palitan ng akusasyon at mabilis itong kumalat mula sa East Wing hanggang sa media office ng palasyo. Agad namang nagtrending sa social media mga salitang palasyo clash at first couple slowdown. Kahit wala pang opisyal na pahayag na inilabas, maraming eksperto ng politika ang nagsasabing posibleng magkaroon ito ng epekto sa imahe ng administrasyon lalo't matagal ng usap-usapan na may mga tensyon sa loob ng pamilyang Mendez pagdating sa mga mahalagang desisyon ng bansa. Sa gitna ng mga spekulasyon, naglabas ng maiksing anunsyo ang tagapagsalita ng palasyo na nagsasabing misunderstanding lamang nangyari at nasa maayos na kondisyon ng pamilyang Mendez. Kahit hindi ito napigil na mag-usbong na iba't ibang teorya mula sa personal na tampuhan hanggang sa umunoy lumalim na sigalo sa pamamahala. Inaasahang haharap ng media ang presidente at unang ginang ng mga kadarating na araw upang tulukan ng lumalawak na kontrobersya na ngayon ay kinaiingitan pa raw ng ilang teleserye. At yan ang pinakamainit na balita mula sa mundo ng politika. Huwag kalimutan mag-like, share, and subscribe para lagi kang updated sa mga may init na balita mula sa mundo ni Madam Chika.
Ang dami namatay sa Cebu. Nagkanakawan ng flood control hindi lang flood control. Ano ba, hawak ba ng mga sindikato yung leeg mo? Tanong lang yan na Pinky. Hawak ba ng mga sindikato yung leeg mo? Tanong lang yan, pag-aari ka na ba ng gobyerno magsimulang nakaligtas ka doon sa Kuratong Baliling? The Sir Corbito case? Tanong lang yan tanong lang. Pag-aari ka na ba ng gobyerno kahit anong dapat mong gawin para protektahan yung dapat protektahan? Tanong lang nagtatanong lang ako. Kasi ganyan yung papunta na narrative mo Nakapokus ka doon sa dapat sirain si Gutesa. Pero alam mo naman yan, kesyo notaryado yun, hindi notaryado. Kesyo peking pagkakanotaryo nun na nag-go siya dyan sa Blue Ribbon. Yun ang importante, di ba? Alam mo yun? Pero sinasabi mo yan para mawalan, dinidiscredit mo si Gutesa sa mata at sa mga tenga ng taong bayan, ganon. Anong lang Pinky! Hindi ka naman pating
We will recognize again the members of the committee in the order of their arrival. And the first to arrive is, as usual, Senator Erwin Tulfo. Of course, the Senate President, we are joined by the Senate President to arrive.
Siyempre, kailangan maganda rin si Erwin the Bending Tulpo, Bending Dalo. Siyempre, beben muna niyo yung loan yan bago magsimula yung Blue Ribbon. Ang ginagawa ni Ben Tulpo, Inayupak Tulpo na yan, ibeben muna niya yung law, ibeben muna niya, tapos simula na yung Blue Ribbon, gano'n. Bending the law. Diba? Gano'n lang yan, bending the law.
Second. Then followed by Senator Ontiveros, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Bam Aquino. So, Senator Tulfo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick statement, Mr. Chair. Distinguished members of the committee. The Professor Wina Guerra of UP Center for Integrated and Development Studies in their policy paper, Flood Control Fiasco. The Policy Reckoning for Accountability in the Philippines revealed...
Pasensya na po kayo, medyo umingi-wingi ako kasi nagpapalaw the leader ako Pero hindi po ako nagkokok, hindi ako nagda-drugs. Gumaganon-ganon lang ako kasi parang yan ang trend sa TV nakikita ko. Gumaganon-ganon, gumigewang yung pangako. Oo. Gumaganyan-ganyan. Bending dalaw nga di ba?
That our flood control failures stem not from lack of funds, but from absence of credible science, data, and accountability, and also, of course, of corruption. One of her recommendations is the revival of Project NOAA and its return to the Department of Science and Technology. Project NOAA once provided real-time hazards, rainfall, forecast, flood simulation, guided.
Tama na, bending dalaw. Tama na. Lipat muna tayo mga karyason. Pa-English na naman tong bending dalaw na to eh. Baka mahirapan ako eh. Dumugo pa yung ilong ko eh.
His sinumpang salaysay as submitted or supplemental affidavit. This is supplemental to the September 20.
Meron na supplemental kaagad si Bernardo mga karyasyon. Dito na dako po tayo dito ha. Pinutol na natin yung kay Bending Tulpo. Dito muna tayo. Biglang nagkaroon ng supplemental itong si Bernardo. Pakinggan po natin kung ano po yung pagpapatuloy ng sarswela ng investigasyon na ito mga karyasyon.
25 affidavit that he submitted likewise to the Department of Justice, which he also testified before this committee. So, Undersecretary Bernardo, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the honorable members of the...
Ito na po yung supplemental affidavit. Hindi po natin alam kung kasama na dito si Pulong Duterte ha. Hindi po natin alam kung kasama na dito si Marcoleta pagdating dito sa mga flood control anomalya.
Blue Ribbon Committee. Mr. Chair, may I be allowed to read an opening statement?
Go ahead. How many minutes?
3 minutes.
Alam niyo na yan eh.
Salamat po.
Alam niyo
Dear
na yan.
Senator Lacson and honorable members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. Again, I am Roberto R. Bernardo, formerly an Undersecretary for Operations of the Department of Public Works and Highways. Today, I am once more before the Honorable Blue Ribbon Committee upon its invitation and consistent with my assurance during my first appearance last September 25, 2025 to fully cooperate in its ongoing investigation. I am here not only out of respect for the invitation of the Honorable Committee, more importantly, I am compelled to come clean because of my fear of God Almighty and my ardent desire for my countrymen to give me a chance to atone for what I have done and failed to do, for which I offer no excuse or justification. Nung ako'y nabanggit sa mga irregularidad na ito, ang una kong naisip ay manahimik tungkol sa nalalaman ko. Haharapin ko na lang ang mga asunto na isasampa sa akin. Ako ay aasa na lamang sa pamamagitan ng aking pananahimik ay makakakuha ako ng proteksyon mula sa makapangyarihan sa politika. At
Teka lang. Mayroon po tayong box populi mga karyasyon. Ito po ha. Tanong lang. Ito kaya sasabihin dito ni Bernardo ay mga karyasyon, naniniwala kayo na hindi pagtaliwas sa katotohanan? I-comment nyo nga po sa comment section pagkatapos po natin panoorin mga karyasyon ha. Ito po mga karyasyon.
may impluensyang mga personalidad na silang may pakana o kaya nagbigay daan sa mga irregularidad na ito. Gayunpaman, napagtanto ko na ang isang pagkakamali ay hindi maaaring iwasto ng isa pang pagkakamali. At kung may maisang pamangkaso ay maaaring magtagal ito bago matapos. Sa aking pagkakaalam sa mga nakarang scam, tulad ng ilang kaso ng PDAF, mahigit isang dekada na ang nakalipas, hanggang ngayon ay dinidinig pa. Kawawa ang bayan. Hindi ko matiyak kung ang mga pangunahing may sala sa mga irregularidad na ito ay mapapatawan ng kaukulang parusa sa lalo.
Binanggit na naman po yung PDAP. Binanggit na naman yung PDAP.
Ang madaling panahon. Gayunpaman, umaasa ako na sa pamamagitan ng kasulukuyang mga pagdinig ay makakabuo ang ating mga mambabatas ng kaukulang batas na hindi lamang tutugon sa epekto ng mga maanumalyang gawain ito, kundi na rin makakapigil sa pag-ulit nito.
Nako!
The magnitude of the irregularities and how this have gravely affected and will affect our nation and its citizens cannot be overemphasized. I am committed to disclose everything that I know regarding these anomalies, particularly the complicated and ingenious ways by which these were carried out and perpetrated all these years. This, despite the serious threats to my personal safety and that of my family and loved ones. Mula sa aking paninilbihan bilang isang mababang laborer hanggang ako'y naging isang undersecretary, Napag-alaman ko na ang profesional na kakayahan at integridad ay maaaring hindi sapat upang matiyak ang tagumpay sa profesional na karera ng isang tao. Nakapaloob sa isang tiwaling sistema kung saan ang isang tao ay pinangakuan ng biyaya o kaya'y pinipilit na lumahok sa mga irregularidad. Ang takot sa maaaring masamang mangyari bunga ng hindi pagsunod o pagnanais na rin sa personal na pakinabang o kaya'y kombinasyon ng dalawang ito ay sumisira sa moral na direksyon ng isang tao. Lalo na kung ang mga dapat na may pangunahing kakayanan na humadlang sa masamang gawain ay siya ring may pakana nito at nagbibigay daan dito. Naniniwala ako na hindi lamang ako ang nakaranas sa sitwasyong ito. Nakikiusap ako sa mga nasa ganitong kalalagayan na magtiwala sa kinauukulan at lumantad na at makipagtulungan sa kasalukuyang investigasyon. In connection with my application for coverage as a state witness under Republic Act No. 6981, I have earlier submitted to the Department of Justice a second supplemental affidavit, further clarifying my previous disclosures on the government flood control and other infrastructure projects subject of the present proceedings. Once again, with the assurance of the Honorable Committee that my rights and benefits under RA 6981 shall be respected, I will be
O,
submitting...
kasama na daw po siya sa Witness Protection Program, mga kareaksyon. Aasahan pa ba natin ito na magsasabi ng katotohanan at pawang katotohanan lamang? I-comment nyo nga po sa comment section yan at ipagpatuloy natin yung panonood at pagre-react dito sa kasalukuyang pagdinig sa Senado, mga kareaksyon. Paki-comment po sa comment section.
the second supplemental affidavit to the Honorable Committee with the prior authority of the Department of Justice through the Honorable Frederick A. Vida, Acting DOJ Secretary, as set out in an authority to disclose, which I am likewise submitting to the Honorable Committee. Thank you po.
Proceed with your statement.
Second supplemental affidavit.
No!
I, Roberto
Sa second supplemental affidavit nagkaroon bigla siya ng second supplemental affidavit, mga kareaksyon. Ano ba yan? Lutong Macau na yan? Pakinggan natin. Manda kay Marcoleta mamaya.
R. Bernardo, Filipino, of legal age and a resident of Panlolo City, Bulacan, under oath, hereby depose and state. I am submitting this second supplemental affidavit consistent with my desire to set forth my knowledge about the irregularities in government flood control and other infrastructure projects, as well as to obtain peace of mind and preserve the truth. Among other factors, the contents of this second supplemental affidavit had to be violated by me by making reference to an assortment of personal notes and records, deep thinking, as well as confirming with persons certain details regarding the time, place, manner, and circumstances under which the events narrated hereunder occurred. Moreover, owing to the passage of time and the fact that I am no longer part of the DPWH following my retirement in August 2025, the process of collecting facts and details had progressed slower than expected, contributing to the delay in the submission of this second supplemental affidavit. Also, I would like to make clear that while the facts narrated below are based on my direct personal knowledge and fortified by official DPWH records, the kickback scheme pertaining to the collection and handoff of the commitments to the relevant public officers occur practically without any paper trail. A statement of facts available to all, applicable to all. Over the decades that I worked for the DPWH, it has always been my philosophy to form good working relationships between and among my bosses and our superiors, inferiors and our subordinates, and other colleagues, even without the promise or expectation of a reward or personal advantage. I would rather troubleshoot problems than develop enemies and immediately address all concerns. I would do this so that I can effectively perform my duties and responsibilities under the DPWH. Unfortunately, this professional orientation of mine has forced me to compromising situations that include the matters narrated hereunder. I reiterate my deep remorse and guilt for what I have done, and I am now animated by an honest desire to help rectify the institutional defects in the systems and operations, not only of DPWH, but also other government agencies, and help in developing lasting and meaningful reforms. I can confirm, based on my personal knowledge, that in some form or another, and on various extents, based on current setup, each and every DPWH official, employee from top and down the line is buffeted with various avenues of corrupt acts and practices. This would include high-ranking members of the department, such as secretary, undersecretaries, assistant secretaries, regional directors, district engineers, bids and awards committee members, engineers, inspectors, and all the way down to laborers. This is also true for several top officials of other departments and or agencies, such as but not limited to the Department of Finance, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Health, Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, Department of Agrarian Reform, Department of Transportation, Philippine Charity Sweepstakes, Philippine Coconut Authority, etc. Moreover, I can confirm, based on my personal knowledge, that in some form or another, and on various extents, most proponents have their own designated contractors who will take on the projects for the former's benefit and advantage. Sometimes, other proponents would request me to suggest contractors for them who are known to me or referred to me by friends and other personalities. There are situations that national and local elected politicians would request me to source projects for them. If given more time and opportunity to review the records and confirm supporting facts, I may be able to particularize the details of these transactions and dealings. Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. I have a close and friendly relationship with Senator Ramon Bong Revilla, and we go all the way back since the time of Amay Bisaya and Mayor Viseo, who first introduced me to the former legislator while I was still a district engineer in Laguna sometime in 2005 or 2006. We frequently meet in important social gatherings. Senator Revilla later on became a godparent of two of my daughters, while I became a godparent to one of his children. When Senator Revilla was incarcerated, I visited him several times at the PNP Custodial Center at Camp Crame. Because of our close relationship, Senator Revilla had asked me for assistance on several matters which I can no longer exactly recall at the moment because this happened a long time ago, and I presently don't have records to help me reconstruct the events. Sometime in the third quarter of 2024, Senator Revilla and I met where he asked me for a list of projects for funding, ostensibly...
Teka lang mga reaction ha. Stop ko muna tong live po to. Revilla, hindi na niya ma-reconstruct. Ano pa? Sige, tuloy.
to help him in his national campaign. When Senator Revilla asked me about the percentage of the commitment, I suggested either 20 or 25, to which Senator Revilla said 25%. Soon thereafter, also in the third quarter of 2024, I asked then District Engineer Henry Alcantara to prepare a list of projects, which he subsequently gave to me. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as Annex A. Moreover, still in the third quarter of 2024, I also asked then District Engineer, but later Regional Director for NCR, Engineer Gerard Opalencia, to prepare a list of projects, which he subsequently gave to me. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as Annex B. I had the list of projects totaling 1.5 billion submitted by Engineer Henry and Engineer Gerard, consolidated in one sheet of paper, and gave the same to Senator Revilla in the third quarter of 2024. With respect to the projects under the NEP and HGAB, I followed this up with Secretary Manny Bonoan upon request of Senator Revilla, who would also follow this up with Yusek Cathy Cabral. The White House compound is the ancestral home of the Revillas with the large Blue Gate entrance at the time. Sometime in the last quarter of 2024, Engineer Alcantara collected the 25% commitment of about 125 million and informed me that the same was ready for turnover through Engineer Gerard Opalencia. Engineer Gerard Opalencia told me that the 25% commitment was already loaded in my vehicle. After receipt of the 25% commitment, which were packed in 6 cardboard boxes, each containing at least 20 million, and 1 paper bag containing 5 million, I called up Senator Revilla to inform him the same is ready to be turned over to him. Sometime December 2024, probably the Monday after my receipt of the commitment, my driver and I went to the residence of Senator Revilla. Upon reaching the area, I tried calling Senator Revilla, but he was not answering my call, so I waited. After waiting for approximately 1 hour at a nearby gasoline station, we were finally allowed inside the compound by the guard. Once inside, we parked the vehicle, and shortly upon alighting, I saw Senator Revilla at the terrace. I walked over to Senator Revilla for a casual talk. While the boxes were being unloaded, Senator Revilla and I talked for about 20 to 25 minutes. I asked him, Sen, bakit hindi ka nangangampanya? Senator Bong replied, okay naman pare, maganda results ng survey. Relax muna. The personnel of Senator Revilla helped in unloading the boxes. After the delivery of the commitment, I headed back to Manila. Sometime late January or February 2025, in relation to a list of projects submitted by Engineer Gerard Opulencia, Senator Revilla called me to follow up on the status of the commitment. About a week later, sometime February 2025, I informed Senator Revilla that the same was ready for turnover. Before the start of the campaign period for national elective positions, I directed one of my aides to deliver commitment amounting to 250 million to the residents of Senator Revilla at the White House compound, Aguinaldo Highway, Bacoor, Cavite. Senator Nancy Binay. Carlin
So tuloy po ang pagkatay kay Revilla, tuloy po ang pagkatay kay Senator Nancy Binay. Yung kay Tambaloslos, tsaka kay Bongbong Marcos, walang pagkatay, wala. Hindi sila sangkot, okay, hindi sila sangkot.
Villa is the aide of Senator Nancy Binay, who transacted with me regarding the latter's projects and commitment. If I recall correctly, I first met Carlin in the year 2018 during the budget season at the Senate. Eventually, sometime 2019, Yusek Traigib Olivar, whom I knew very well, endorsed Carlin to me. From then on, Carlin would contact me directly to follow up the status of different matters. Sometime fourth quarter in 2022, Carlin, claiming to act on behalf of Senator Binay, asked my help for the transfer of an assistant district engineer in Mindanao to another district, a request which I endorsed to Sec Bunoan. Sometime during the third to fourth quarter of 2022, Carlin requested on behalf of Senator Binay for a list of projects worth around 1.882 billion with 12% commitment. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as Annex C. I got 3% of 1.82 billion. I prepared a list of projects within my area of jurisdiction with the help of DPW's officials, but could not recall at this time exactly who among them gave me the list. But I can recall that it was Engineer Manny Bulusan who coordinated the collection of the commitment. Eventually, during the first quarter of 2023, the commitment was delivered to Carlin for Senator Binay in several tranches in Makati and Quezon City. But I could not recall at this time the details of the deliveries, but I undertake to submit additional information thereon. Sometime last quarter of 2023, Carlin again asked for Senator Binay a list of projects for inclusion and funding under the 2024 GAA, which I provided with the help of Engineer Gerard Apulecia and Engineer Henry Alcantara. The total list of projects initially amounted to 2.5 billion, but which was reduced to 1.672 billion. The said projects are enumerated in the list here to attach as Annex D. Apparently, some individual or group offered Senator Binay a higher amount of commitment of 15% instead of the previous 12%, with the promise that the commitment would be released much earlier. Yusek Traigib learned about the plan to transact with this individual or group, and I was informed by Yusek Traigib that he confronted Carlin and said to her, "Bakit nyo binabawasan ng kay Robert? Siya din naman ang nilalapitan ng mga yan pagka nagkakaproblema." However, sometime later part of December 2023, Carlin called me and requested for a 50 million advance for Senator Binay's shoes for the holiday season because the individual or group was unable to deliver on their promise, and which I then helped to fix. Thereafter, Carlin told me that Senator Binay was expecting an increase in the commitment from 12 to 15%, which I agreed to fulfill. I did not get any percentages from the aforementioned projects worth 1.672 billion, but I was reimbursed the 50 million which I earlier advanced. I was nurturing goodwill with Senator Binay by fulfilling the commitment. Sometime 2024, Carlin requested me to relay to Sec Bunoan Senator Binay's request for some allocation under the NEP, which I did. Sec Bunoan allocated 500 million for Senator Binay under the NEP for 2025, which I relayed to Carlin. Carlin told me to prepare a list of projects for the 500 million allocation. I then asked a list of projects from Engineer Henry and Engineer Gerard worth 500 million, which I then submitted in person with Sec Bunoan, who then told me he will instruct Yusek Cabral to include the same in the NEP. The list of projects was included in the NEP for 2025. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as Annex E. Likewise, sometime in the last quarter of 2024, Carlin for Senator Binay asked for a list of projects to be included in the 2025 GAA. I then directed Engineer Henry and Engineer Gerard Apulecia to prepare a consolidated list of projects. I submitted a list of projects totaling 3 billion to Carlin, but only approximately 2.6 billion was included. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as Annex F. After these projects appeared in the GAA, Engineer Bulusan, Engineer Upolesya, and myself collected, raised, and prepared the 15% commitment, which was all turned over to me. There were difficulties in collecting the commitment as there were contractors, congressmen who did not give amount considering the issue of for later release projects totaling approximately 80 million more or less, which I had to advance. Despite this total commitment collected and raised for Senator Binay was 15% of 1.2 billion or around 468 million more or less. I earlier mentioned that the 37 million more or less was delivered at Horseshoe Village, Quezon City, which refers to the amount collected by Engineer Henry Alcantara. But upon full recollection, there were two deliveries. The first delivery amounted to 340 million at a house in Horseshoe Village, Quezon City, and the second delivery amounted to at least 200 million at another house, but also in Horseshoe Village, Quezon City. After the second delivery, Carlin told me, "Kinuha na ni Sir, salamat raw. Hindi ka raw kakalimutan sa Makati." The Sir refers to the husband of Senator Binay. I did not get any percentages from the projects worth 3,120 million for NEP and GAA for Senator Binay. Senator Chis Escudero and Maynard Ngu. I met Maynard Ngu at the Manila City Hall during the term of Mayor Erap, and while I was the city engineer of Manila sometime in 2013. Maynard Ngu is a familiar figure in the social political circles, as he would be handling substantial donations to politicians during election season, including the distribution of mobile phones. During the 2022 national elections, Maynard Ngu approached me and asked for help in raising campaign funds.
So all-out attack po itong si Bernardo dito sa mga kalaban.